the specifics about who and all of that. You know how you talked about a brother we were going to go see?
Yeah.
Will you tell them what happened with that brother?
Sure. All right. A few weeks back, I asked you all to pray for a brother in our church, and he's been going through some really difficult times, and I don't know if he has complete control over what he does. He's got some illnesses that can give him some difficulties, not only mentally but physically. He can be really impaired, and he needed somebody to just reach out to him and talk to him. And so Dale and I went over to his apartment and just sat with him and listened to him as he voiced his opinions and his grievances, and we asked that if he had it in his heart that he would forgive the church. And he said, yes, that's all I needed to hear. And love has come back into his heart. He's praising the Lord. And I think he's going to be back to join me next week. So we'll have Valiant here on the drums. And I ask that you give him a warm welcome, that you treat him like he never left. And if there's anybody else in the church, I think sometimes we just need to go and visit them and talk to them and listen to them. Not really just tell them what to do, but listen to what they have to say. And sometimes just listening can mean the world to somebody. So if there's anybody on your heart that is like that, I'd ask that you pray for them and that you would talk to Dale or I or one of the elders or anybody that we can go visit them. It's time to bring people back. It's time to bring people here. We are called inside out for a reason, because what we do out there. It's not about what's going on in our lives. We're reaching out and helping people and bringing them to God. So thank you all for your prayers, and continue to be praying for those that are in need the most.
Awesome.
Amen.
Thank you, Brian. God is faithful. He said that he would do all these things. And it was a long time ago I stopped seeing them in any form as being solely promises. They're realities. Because if they're not realities, then he's not who he says he is.
I forgot to say one thing.
Yeah.
If anybody has cards that they can bring them in the church.
Oh, yeah. So one thing that we want to communicate is, at our old location, we had the big windows there. And if you had belongings that, if you had a large amount, if you had a card, or if you had backpacks or whatever, you used to be able to see those through the window. And I just want to invite you that we would like it if you would bring them inside, and you can put them back here in the back so that you don't have to worry about your belongings, okay? And so if you choose not to do that, that's okay too, but I just want you to know that you're fully invited to do that. So, because we understand that that's an important thing. So, yeah, Vicki.
Take it off.
I would just like to share, because it's on my heart, of what I just heard. That God can do miracles, even today.
Come on up, Vicki. Look here. Rosie, come here. Come here. I know I'm not the right one on the end of the leash. There you go.
It wasn't that long ago. A mother's prayer, if you will. I don't know where it's found, but I know there is a place in the Bible there, because I've seen it, that God respects a mother's prayer. And I prayed for 3 or 4, maybe longer years. My son to come back to the Lord because he was hurt by somebody in the church. And even though he may not be Adventist, at least he's going to church now. And he's helping out in the church. And he's come back to the Lord. Not only that, but I can only say it. But he's reading his Bible, and he's back on fire for the Lord.
Amen.
And I prayed for 3 or 4 or 5 years for this. So, moms, aunts, grandmas, whoever you are, don't give up. It can happen. It has happened.
Thank you.
Amen.
And he's helped me. I pray the Lord doesn't think that I'm taking advantage. But I have seen, and figuratively speaking, but I haven't seen the Red Sea once. I've seen it twice,
Amen.
where God has opened the Red Sea and may do it again one last time if he's willing.
Amen.
But not because I'm trying to look a gift horse in the mouth, but for reasons I can't go into right now. But God is a God of miracles today.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, thank you. You know, I want to give you that reminder and that opportunity that this is the best part of gathering together, which often we call a church service, which I wish we would come up with different terms for these things. Because Paul said that the reason why we don't forsake the gathering together is not so that we can come and have a liturgy, but instead so that we can come and we can encourage one another.
Amen.
And so I was encouraged by what you shared. Even though I was part of what Brian shared, that encourages me again to hear it. And I hope these things encourage you that as you have struggles in your life and as people that you love are struggling, that God is no respecter of persons. In other words, He cares the same for me and you and everyone else around us without distinction one from another. And so when we come together like this, this is the most important. I'm about ready to open up the Bible and we're going to carry on in our story, which if I was giving it a title, I'd be calling it All in the Family. Because remember last week we talked about what goes on up in Scotts Mills, or what was presumed to go up there?
What's wrong with that?
Well, nothing's wrong with it, man, I guess, but
We're talking about our mind.
yeah. I was going to say, we'll talk later, Sam. And so when you think about this, it's actually incredibly good news because of where people have come from and what God does with that.
Amen.
And so when you look at the very examples that Paul, the Apostle Paul, uses in the New Testament, as he expresses whom God declares righteous and all of the things that are written about that same individual in the past, that it becomes really clear they were in no way ever righteous because of anything good or anything bad that they ever did. Because it wasn't based upon either one. And so I think often why the Bible writers gave us the pictures of the things that were a little bit unfortunate And as we read about the end of chapter 19 in Genesis, we would say that's more than a little unfortunate. That's really unfortunate, really cringeworthy. And now we look at the uncle of Lot, and we hear the expression of how he came into having his wife. And that his lie wasn't a complete lie, it was a partial lie. And there's some very interesting things as that we were seeing as we read these stories, as you talk about the Red Sea, which I want you to pay attention to some of the places that are mentioned as we open up our Bible again this morning. And one of them is Shur. The place of Shur. I told Simona on the way over here as I was thinking about the story that we're going to be talking about today, I have all these thoughts about books that could focus upon a little thing, and a whole book could be written on the Shur thing. In other words, the place called Shur, the people that came into proximity of Shur, and how after generations they come back and visit it, because as you read this story and you see what's going on with Abraham and where he's at and the proximity in these locations, that he's going back and he's coming back into proximity where the issue with Hagar and Ishmael, them taking things into their own hand, he's circling back into that same area where Ishmael is. I can infer a lot of things. The Bible doesn't say why, it doesn't say what's occurring there, but it's fascinating to me. And then as Israel was set free by God out of Egypt, if you remember when they crossed the Red Sea, where did they come into play for 3 days with no water? Sure. Sure they did, yeah. Sure thing. What was going on with Hagar and what was going on with Ishmael? They were dying of thirst out there in the desert. And God speaks to them, encourages them, and He provides them with water. What happened in Shur? You had a whole multitude of people that come across the Red Sea, delivered by God, and they're certain that they're going to die. And they're thinking, why didn't it be just as good to die in Egypt than to here? And this place, we see the symbol, I think, in this region of the Negev desert of the failures of humanity. The picture of them taking things into their own hands, defiling the ways of God. Generation after generation after generation, and God relentlessly still shows up and gives them water. Amen. God is relentless in your life. And no matter how many times you've revisited the same circumstance again in your life, don't be upset with yourself, because that will just make you look more at yourself, which is how you got to the place you are anyway.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Look to the one that will quench your thirst right where you are. So as we go back into this next part of the story where we see the really, really cringy thing that I got to preach on last week with Lot and his daughters, I would have gladly handed that over to any of you. Right? Today's cringy, but not quite like that, but it would tell us that this is Lot's uncle, and it's kind of all in the family. This is a weird bunch.
Mark of approval.
Yeah. I mean, this was taboo, and it's taboo today, and it's stuff that we like to make jokes about, and then we also do a lot of, yeah. Open your Bibles if you have them. We've got a box with Bibles around here somewhere too if you don't have one. Maybe somebody could Boy, oh, they're on the chairs. Thank you. Was that Jeff? Did you put out the Bibles?
That was Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff.
Good job, Jeff.
Yeah.
Here, here.
Yeah. Genesis chapter 20. Abraham moved south to the Negev, and he lived for a while between Kadesh and Shur. Genesis 20. Remember, Kadesh was the place that was named. It was named because of what God did for Hagar and for Ishmael. That's where it got its name, was because of that incident that happened out in the desert. And so Abraham's heading right out to a place called Gerar, which is a Philistine, I was going to say infested. That's maybe the wrong word. I don't know. Yeah, probably. I never claimed to be a wordsmith, so we'll go. That was Philistine infested. Let's just call it. Let's work with that. It came to my head, so it must be okay, right? So just work with that next time something comes out of your mouth and you're going, it must have been good because it came into my head. Well, maybe that's a wrong policy too. So, all right, let's get back to the story. That might be better. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Hey, you guys chose me. Oh, there you go. Good clarity. Yeah. Well, I love you guys. So the king there is Abimelech, which means son of Molech. Molech was the god that was worshipped where your firstborn was sacrificed alive on the altar. Okay, so this is an icky place. And it's really interesting because God speaks to this man. I mean, imagine if that's your name. Son of Molech. No. Now, I guess it depends on your perspective. But son of the one that they sacrificed their children to. Yeah, there's so much icky stuff in this story. Can we skip it? Yeah, now I know why they sanitized it all my life. Right? So it goes on. While living there as a foreigner, Abraham introduced his wife Sarah by saying, "She's my sister." So King Abimelech of Gerar sent for Sarah and had her brought to him at his palace. Okay, I don't know, and I'm not going to put anyone on the spot to tell me their age, but I'm guessing most of us here are under 90. Okay, so I can't help but interject this into the story. These are senior citizens. All right? Picture this down at the senior center. And you have these older people, which is awesome because I'm getting there too. I understand it a whole lot better now than I used to. There's so many parts to this that I'm going, I get it now. Yeah. It makes perfect sense. How my wife and I can have two completely different conversations and think that we're communicating. Amen. Yeah. So just picture this. This is down at maybe, like the senior center or something. I mean, these people are 90. Right? 90, and they're having drama over spousal things. All right? I'm just wanting you to picture this. This isn't teenage drama. This isn't middle school drama. This isn't like, 30-something, we've got kids and things aren't going well and we're going to do weird stuff in our life. These are senior citizens. And so, the story goes on. That night, God came to Abimelech in a dream and told him, "You are a dead man. For that woman you have taken is already married." He went after a 90-year-old woman for his palace. And I'm not saying that derogatorily, I'm just saying it because this is an interesting story. If we don't stop and think about the different parts of the story, we might miss some stuff. Imagine what this would look like if Hollywood was casting the plot. Oh, no, don't imagine that. Sorry, I said that.
It came out of your mouth.
I know it. That's right, Bill. I guess I got to live by my words, right? You're a dead man. But Abimelech had not slept with her yet, so he said, Lord, will you destroy an innocent nation? Did Abraham tell me she is my sister? And she herself said, yes, he is my brother. I acted in complete innocence. My hands are clean. In the dream, God responded, yes, I know you're innocent. That's why I kept you from sinning against me, and why I did not let you touch her. Now return the woman to her husband, and he will pray for you, for he is a prophet. Then you will live, but if you don't return her to him, you can be sure that you and all your people will die. Those stakes are kind of high. I mean, just think about that let's just, well, the mayor's not here, so I'll have fun with that, right? So imagine if the mayor got a hold of one of your spouses, right? We're out doing ministry or whatever out here in Salem, and the mayor gets a hold of my wife Simona, right? Or my sister Simona, or so the story goes. Not our story, really, but. And so God speaks to the mayor and goes, all of the residents of Salem are going to die if you don't return Simona to Dale. Wow. I mean, imagine all of us that are just, we're living here. We didn't do anything, per se. I mean, we did something. It was different than that, but this is a big deal. That's a lot of weight on the son of Molech. It's really unfortunate as we get along in the Bible, Gideon also named his son of Molech. And we're going to get to that someday, which will be a lot of fun. There's some interesting things in the Bible, right? So the story goes on. Verse 8, Abimelech got up early the next morning and quickly called all his servants together. And when he told them what had happened, his men were terrified. Then Abimelech called for Abraham. What have you done to us? He demanded. What crime have I committed that deserves treatment like this, making me and my kingdom guilty of this great sin? No one should ever do what you have done. Whatever possessed you to do such a thing? Yeah. Abraham replied, I thought this is a godless place. Listen to the excuse. Those of you that were in Concord Group, what was the first night? Accountability, no excuses. There is no excuse that is legitimate. And that's for everyone in life. There is not a single excuse that is ever legitimate. There's no such thing. You can state circumstances and facts, but an excuse is always to separate yourself from accountability. Okay, so this guy was named Righteous? Mr. Excuse Maker? Sister Marrier?
All because of him.
Isn't it awesome, Nicole? What a story. So it goes on, verse 13. When God called me to leave my father's home and travel from place to place, I told her, do me a favor, wherever we go, tell the people that I'm your brother. Then Abimelech took some of his sheep and goats and cattle and male, female servants, and he presented them to Abraham. He also returned his wife Sarah to him, and then Abimelech said, "Look over my land and choose any place where you would like to live." Remember, God had already given him a promise about the land that he was going to receive. Now it's starting to come in some strange manners. If God promised us that something was going to be given to us, what if a king that promoted the worship of Moloch came and said, "Hey, Inside Out, I have a gift for you"? I remember there was a time where there was a casino that was wanting to offer up the full payment for a brand new school. And the people said no. Somehow the Bible says different kinds of things. That being offered up something from this guy, and by his own words, Abraham was saying, "Well, I thought this was a godless place." In other words, it was absent from anything having to do with the true God. Well, when we think of worshiping Moloch, why would he think differently? Think of the stories where, what was the tabernacle built with?
Egyptian silver and gold.
Yeah, Milton. Huh. Were they considered all that ethical, maybe? Or,
Only after the Red Sea.
yeah. When they were in the bottom? Yeah. There's so many parts of the story for us to take to heart. God has his way. Are we willing to follow? You know, I keep looking at these walls and I keep wondering, where are we going to put when the cloud moves? Right? When the cloud moves, what are we going to do? Follow the cloud. Follow the cloud. And we don't need to take it into our own hands. We don't need to take it into our own thought of what is right and wrong. But we need to trust God, the one who always is, and always was, and always will be. So Abraham is struggling a little bit with that because he's looking at things humanly. Think of our journey and how many times in this process of selling property, moving into a paint store, pursuing multiple properties, believing that something's going to occur, and it functioning in an amazing thing. Do you remember we prayed for Todd? We prayed for Todd, the owner of the building that we tried to buy. And you know what? God answered that prayer. I can't tell you the details about it, but he was in a bad way. And a man that blessed us for the sole purpose, not because he shares our religious beliefs, but he blessed us solely because God told his wife it was the will of God.
Amen.
The same man blesses this other guy that we prayed for and clears the slate for him. We heard some testimonies this morning. Here's a couple more. You never met Todd. I haven't either. But we learned his name through a business transaction that failed, but you cared enough to pray for him, and God did something. Maybe we'll get to meet Todd sometime. Right? He's faithful. So in this story, God is not unfaithful. He's the same as he was and is and always will be. And so in verse 16, and he said to Sarah, "Look, I'm giving your brother 1,000 pieces of silver in the presence of all these witnesses. This is to compensate for any wrong I have done to you." Look, this is the godless king, the son of Molech. This is the guy that's coming, and he's the bad guy. God talks to him, and now he's coming to Abraham. That had to have been some kind of dream. Right? To have that impact on him. And he goes, this will settle any claim against me, and your reputation is now cleared. He offers him forgiveness, grace, mercy. Right? When I start thinking about the fruits of the Spirit, what is going on here? Remember, the capacity to forgive is not human, it's from God. The capacity to give grace is not on our own, but it comes from God. The capacity to be merciful comes from God, not from us. Our capacity to do anything good only comes from God. Phil.
So maybe that's why Gideon named his son Abimelech. It's kind of a compliment to a king who had some good things.
That's insightful, Bill. That's really, he said maybe that's why Gideon named his son Abimelech. It's really insightful. Yeah. Wonder how often, since Earth's beginning and humans breathing and walking after the fall, I wonder how often there's been judgment about somebody based upon what they think about somebody. And I wonder how many times the end of the story worked out as it was presumed. Because you all have stories, and I'm pretty sure people thought about you. I know when I've shared with you, I've met people I hadn't seen since high school, and they find out I'm a pastor, and they almost fall over. They all thought I was possessed. I'm not joking. Yeah. What a surprise. Yeah, Mike.
One time I was on Facebook and just went to the folk area just to talk to people and start explaining things that happened to me in my lifetime. By the time I